Before we get started, I've got some exciting news. HelloFresh is now a proud sponsor of Divorce and Beyond. If you've been thinking about cutting back on grocery bills, avoiding food waste, or just getting dinner on the table without stress, this is your moment because right now, HelloFresh is offering one free item in every box for life. That's right, every single box you order includes a free item forever. And just to give you a taste of what that looks like, get it, taste, I got pineapple upside down cakes in my first order. I originally discovered HelloFresh during the pandemic, and I fell in love with learning new recipes and expanding our dinner routine. I let it go for a while because, hey, I live in Chicago with world-class restaurants on every corner, but with today's rising costs, HelloFresh is back on my table, and I'm so glad it is. So if you're ready to save time, money, and dinner, go to divorceandbeyond.com/HelloFresh and sign up today to grab that free item for life. You can also find a link in the show notes or divorceandbeyond.com/HelloFresh. And now let's get into today's episode.
Coming up on today's episode of the Divorce and Beyond podcast.
Always remember that when you're going through a divorce, unlike most of the rest of your life, hopefully, you are under a microscope at all times. So before you hit post on anything, think about how this would appear if it were being shown in court. Hello, and welcome to the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host. As a top divorce attorney and family law mediator for 30 years, I know what you need to know to get through your divorce, and most importantly, how to move beyond it to thrive and transition to your new future. My experts and I are here to give you the insider view into the process, so listen in for the wisdom and expert information you need on your journey through divorce and beyond. Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host, and today, listeners, we are going to dive into a topic that honestly is overdue, and that is the incredibly bad divorce advice that spreads like wildfire on social media. Now, honestly, I am not anti-TikTok or against Instagram. In fact, if you follow me on Instagram anyway, you know that I post pretty much every day. I think that these platforms can be amazing outlets for information and support as people are going through the divorce process. But here's the problem. There is a lot of content that tends to catch hold that's just plain wrong. And following it can do some serious damage to your divorce process, your financial future, and your relationship with your kids. So after my more than 35 years in the trenches as a divorce attorney and mediator, I want to walk through some of the most common and misleading pieces of advice that I've seen online lately. And more importantly, I'll talk about what you should actually be doing instead. So let's dive into our social media content. Number one, the idea that you don't need a lawyer if your divorce is amicable. And I call this the template trap, right? The also known as, there's a template for that. Okay, at a high level, this isn't wrong. If you have a very simple divorce, and by that I mean a divorce where you have very little by way of assets or debt, and you don't have any children, and you don't have a broad discrepancy in your incomes, or it's not a long-term marriage, then sometimes the forms that you will find online, very often on judicial websites for each state, sometimes those forms will be sufficient. But more often than not, they are not sufficient to give you enough guidance on everything that you need to discuss in order to appropriately and fairly settle your divorce, right? So I'm always seeing, and this is more prevalent, I would say, on TikTok, but you see these divorce influencers, people who have just gone through divorce, saying something like, hey, we just downloaded a $99 online divorce template and we were done with our divorce in a weekend, right? Or something like, if you're not fighting, skip the lawyers, just split stuff down the middle and move on. And there are a lot of people who are just promoting their own DIY divorce kits with links to generic forms, not even the ones that I was talking about, that are put out by the judicial division of particular states, right? Like you can go on to Connecticut, where I used to practice. They have a divorce agreement template that's basically a fill in the blank Mad Libs. And again, if you have a relatively simple divorce, it tells you all the basic elements that you have to make determinations on and lets you fill in those blanks. What it doesn't tell you is what's missing, or what type of conversation you have to have around those things. So let's talk about that, because what's really going on here is that even in the most peaceful splits, divorce is a legal process. It is not just a breakup. It is just not just saying, done with you, grabbing a box, throwing your stuff in it, taking that toothbrush, emptying out your drawer, and heading home. So those simple templates have a lot of problems with them. First off, divorce laws are different in every state, but those templates are often not state specific. Often those templates can leave out some critical clauses about debt division or things like retirement or your tax liabilities. Those forms have been created to meet the minimum of what is required in order to legally qualify under the law in that state for a divorce, if they're state specific, right? They don't go into any of the deeper issues, nor give you any guidance about what you need to determine about those issues or how you even determine if you have those issues. They just hit the bare minimum. So unless your divorce involves just the bare minimum when it comes to issues, they're not sufficient. Very importantly, they don't address future issues. They're very much past and done. They don't address things like what if there need to be modifications in the future, or one of the parties wants to relocate, or what happens with college costs, because many states don't require that college be covered. Is that something you want to skip talking about because it's not included in the form that you downloaded? Often, lawyers will see couples that come to us after they have finalized a DIY agreement. And in those agreements, they'll often think they say split everything 50-50. But in one case that I had, they missed a pension that one of the parties had. It wasn't listed and it wasn't covered, but they got divorced based on that agreement. And under the terms of the pension, they couldn't go back up and reopen the divorce to now divide that pension. It was too late. You take risks when you rely on the bare minimum. Now, I want to be clear here. When I talk about DIY, I'm talking about this template trap. I am not talking about using a service like Hello Divorce. In fact, go and listen to the Hello Divorce episode that we have with Erin, Levine, the founder and CEO of Hello Divorce. And I think you'll see just how different that process that they have curated is. In fact, it's only available in certain states because they are very state specific. They walk you through the entire process and they have legal and mediator assistance available to you along with a myriad of other resources to help you make sure that you cover everything that you need to do. Notably, I'm not talking about DIY divorce when it comes to this particular TikTok trend or Instagram moment. Here's what you should do instead. Work with a mediator or an attorney and get the attorney to do a flat fee review. So look at it this way. You sit with a mediator. They tend to be much less expensive, but they know the topics that you need to cover. They know the nuances of those topics, and they know how to help you have a conversation about everything that needs to be covered. Then go to attorneys, each of you, and have that legal agreement. It is a contract reviewed between the two of you. So sit down with your attorney and make sure you both understand that agreement and that it says what you think it says, because it is legal and it is binding. If you are using a template, you can still have it reviewed by an attorney to make sure that it covers everything that it needs to cover. And again, most attorneys will do that for a flat fee. It is money well spent. You don't want to be the people who missed the pension or have some issue that cannot be revisited. And just remember, amicable doesn't mean casual, right? We just did a wonderful episode with Tracy and Moore Grant, the founder of the Amicable Divorce Network. And we talked about all of the many things that need to be covered in any divorce, amicable or not, and the professionals that can help you get there. So you need to protect your future. Divorce is about the future. Everyone's very focused on the past, but never forget, it's also about your future, and you are responsible for protecting it. Right. The next thing that I have seen a lot on social media, this one might be Facebook and Instagram. I'm not so sure about TikTok, but people announcing their divorce on social media with this belief that that helps them to control the narrative, right? So certainly we also always see celebrities doing the joint post, right? To tell everyone with your ex that this is a mutual divorce, and we are here, we ask for privacy in this time of difficulty for our family. People believe that they're controlling the narrative, they're getting ahead of that story. And they always, I love this, they always have hashtags like amicable divorce or conscious uncoupling. And they are always, with happy, upbeat music. What's really going on here? The thing you always need to remember about social media is exactly what it says in its title. It is social and it is media. That means judges, mediators, and your ex's attorney are going to see what those posts are. Depending on how your divorce goes, they can use them in a variety of different ways. I have been in these cases. I'll give you an example in a minute, but they can use these posts to undermine claims when you down the road want to claim that you're distressed or you have a hardship. They can be used to show poor judgment or insincerity when you say one thing in those posts, but come down the road and say something else. And they absolutely can influence custody proceedings at times when it makes it seem like you're not taking the situation seriously, or again, when things haven't worked out the way that you think they are going to at the time that you make that post. What I think you may want to consider doing is sharing your news personally and selectively. And by that, I mean in person and to only the select few who need to know. I highly encourage you to avoid public commentary during active litigation or during the course of your divorce, whether it's litigation, mediation, or anything else. And if you do post it neutrally, respectfully, and minimally. Do not turn your divorce into content. It's a very different thing. And I'll tell you now that the case that I had, and this is back, it's probably 15, 20 years ago when Facebook was, the hot thing at the time that tells you. But this is exactly how people are still seeing social media come back to bite them in a courtroom. I was representing someone who was in court seeking to modify his alimony payments downward. And he was saying that his income had gone down quite a bit since the time of the divorce, and therefore he was entitled, based upon a significant change of circumstances, he was earning less, to pay less. So we get into court, we're the party moving. So we put the case on, he gets up on the stand, states a whole bunch of statements in response to my questioning about how his income has gone down, how he's not earning as much money. Then his ex-wife gets up and she's got some pictures, and I don't know what these pictures are. And putting the evidentiary issues aside, she eventually got them in as evidence. They were pictures of my client's girlfriend's Facebook feed, right? Girlfriend's Facebook feed with pictures of his new yacht and the two of them on it drinking champagne and sailing around the Bay of Miami. It was lovely. It looked like a really nice day. It was a really pretty yacht. It was a good bottle of champagne. It didn't help my client's case at all. And it made my client look like perhaps he had not been truthful. That is the type of information. And there's another takeaway from this too, by the way. Don't forget, it's not just what you post on social media. It's what anyone around you is posting on social media. So when you have those discussions with your personal few that you select to know what's going on in your divorce, make sure that they understand that it is not for public consumption. This seems like a good spot to take a quick break to hear from one of our sponsors, but stick around because in the second half of the episode, I'm going to get into some of the flashier and riskier trends that I've seen online, like announcing your divorce on social media, showing off your glow up, and why calling your ex a narcissist might actually hurt your case more than help it. You don't want to miss what's coming up next on Divorce and Beyond. Let's take a little minute to talk about something special. If you follow me on Instagram, you all know how much I love my evil eye pendant. I love I have my bracelet. I have the pendant that goes around my neck. I wear evil eyes all the time. And so many of you have reached out asking where I got them. I'm thrilled to share with you all, drum roll please, that my favorite jewelry source, Yumi You Jewelry, is now a sponsor of Divorce and Beyond. For me, Yumi You Jewelry is more than just jewelry. The symbols are symbols of strength, individuality, and empowerment. And they handcraft each piece with love and care. And so they are designed to help women stand out and embrace our unique personalities. So whether it's an evil eye like I have chosen for protection, a hamsa for faith, or any other meaningful symbol, their pieces offer beauty and inspiration even during these tough times like divorce. So here's the best part. Yumi You is giving my listeners an exclusive discount if you use the code BEYOND, that's BEYOND, all caps, at checkout. You'll get 20% off your order. 20%. So if you're looking for a meaningful piece to keep you inspired or to protect you during this difficult time, visit divorcebeyond.com/YumiYou. That's YUMIYU. There will be a link in the show notes. And treat yourself or treat someone you love to something special. You deserve it. Now, let's get back to the second half of the show. Okay, the next one that we see all the time, and it kind of goes with that revenge body or revenge dress sort of feed filler that we see out there. And it's this concept of posting your post-divorce glow up or your post-breakup glow up to make your ex regret losing you. Instagram has all these pictures or reels. I just saw one yesterday of someone going out on their post-divorce shopping spree. A lot of people will soft launch their new partners or their dating life before their divorce is final. Goodness knows, many people like to put pictures of their fabulous vacations online. I saw one the other day that said something like "divorced and thriving" is the caption on the reel. So what's really going on here is, trust me, people are paying attention to those posts, and these posts can especially if you're actively in the midst of your divorce. One, make it, like my client, look like you're hiding assets. It can undermine your claim for spousal support, or make it look like somebody else is supporting you if that new partner is the one taking you on that lavish vacation. And they can almost always backfire in custody evaluations, depending on what the content is. And if you are putting your children out there in these Instagram reels or TikTok videos, right? There's a lot that goes into this social media review. Every good attorney is looking at the social media feeds. Trust me, someone on their team is combing through your social media if they're getting close to going into a courtroom. During your divorce, celebrate your growth privately. You don't need to perform online, and it could very easily harm your credibility. Always remember that when you're going through a divorce, unlike most of the rest of your life, hopefully, you are under a microscope at all times. So before you hit post on anything, think about how this would appear if it were being shown in court. What spin could be put on this video, this post, this comment, this statement? Because once it's out there, I don't care if you take it down. You have to presume that once it's out there forever. So another one that I saw, and this one's quite concerning, and it is this concept of hide your assets to protect yourself, right? I've seen posts that say things like transfer money to your mom during the divorce. You can trust your mom, but take money out of your name, get it into your mom's name. Or open a secret account now before you file divorce papers. And somebody was telling me about a Reddit thread that had tips on how to protect your cash. And yes, there are things that you might want to do to protect your cash, but some of these other suggestions, frankly, are downright illegal. Hiding assets in divorce is illegal. It is also against all of the rules of divorce. We have regulations and rules and standards in divorce for the exact opposite of this, that divorce is supposed to be a full and open process where neither side has to guess about what the other party has. So be very clear. Hiding your assets is illegal. It can result in sanctions. It can result in the reopening of agreements. And it can result in the loss of the very asset that you are trying to protect. I had this exact case. I had somebody who was one of my clients, and during their divorce, they received an inheritance. One of their parents had passed away. They received, I think it was like $80,000 in inheritance funds. They didn't tell me, their attorney, anything about it. And when the attorney who was handling the estate issued the funds to them, she, my client, put them into her son's hands and had him deposit those into his account. Never put him on any financial disclosures, never said a word about them, went forward, got the divorce based upon no disclosure of this particular asset. And then post-divorce, son got angry with his mother. Son told father that mom had hidden this asset with him. Father moved to open the judgment, and it was opened. Judge was very unhappy with my client and referred the matter, the file, to the state's attorney's office for a potential prosecution for breaking those laws I was talking about. And the judge reopened the judgment and gave the entire $80,000 to the husband, right? The entire asset. Now, here's the real kicker. If she had disclosed it properly because it was an inheritance, the husband likely would have had no claim to it at all. It came in during the divorce process. And if she had spoken to me about it, we would have had that discussion. And even if she had, under some circumstance, you happen to be in a state where that might have been shared or something happened where a court might have held that he had some interest in it, the chances that it would have been 100% of the asset are slim and none. So that's a very real example of what can happen if you listen to some of the bad advice on the internet that you see in social media. So hiding assets to protect yourself, you are not protecting yourself. In fact, you are doing exactly the opposite. So when you get advice on social media, run it through the filter of, does this sound like it's appropriate, legal? Ask your attorney, is this something that I could be doing? Do not bite off your nose to spite your face. All right. Another one that I saw recently is, and this tends to be in the comments a lot. It tends to be in the Facebook groups where you see a lot of these conversations. And it tends to be this concept of, your ex cheated, so they shouldn't get the kids, meaning they shouldn't have custody, they shouldn't have parenting time. And the social media comments that you see proliferating all over the place really boil down to, well, if they were unfaithful, then they cheated on the whole family and they're not a good parent. And if you expose that affair, you'll be able to go to court and get full custody. So those comment threads conflate something like a moral failure, which absolutely, they were a terrible spouse if they cheated on you. But saying that someone was a terrible spouse does not in a courtroom mean that they are a parenting failure. It may be something that you can bring into the court's knowledge base in a hearing so that it can be taken into consideration in the custodial matter, but it does not equate to bad spouse equals shouldn't get the kids. So what you really need to know is that family court rarely cares about infidelity unless it directly harms the children. Adultery really rarely affects custody, and trying to weaponize cheating can backfire because courts value cooperation between co-parents. They are looking to know that the two of you can put all of that interpersonal stuff about your relationship with your ex behind you or aside or in a box when it comes to doing what you need to do to co-parent in the best interest of your children. And so all of your posting and sharing on social media about your ex's infidelity out into the world of social and media isn't showing someone who's doing anything that is being cooperative with their co-parent. I'm not saying that your ex didn't do something wrong, and I'm not saying that you don't get to feel that you were done wrong. Absolutely you were. But when you put that sort of thing out on social media, you need to consider how it trickles down to your children, because the people who see it on social media are not just all the other parents, all your kids' friend group, their teachers, your community, your family, your friends, and everyone. And everyone will have opinions. Everyone's going to talk about it. Everyone's going to treat people differently. And that all trickles down to your children. So what should you do instead? Honestly, focus on your parenting strengths. Trying to affect the relationship of your children with the other co-parent doesn't help you and where you are strong in your parenting. Focus on how you can be the best parent you can be. You have control over that. To the best of your ability, show that you support your child's relationship with their other parent. Study after study shows that children do best in normal circumstances where they have access and regular contact with both of their parents. And don't make these decisions based on social media. Do it in conjunction with your parenting coach, with your lawyer, with your children's therapist, whomever the people are who have the appropriate knowledge base to help guide you here. Don't look to social media where people are grinding their axes to get your parenting advice. Now, the last one I want to talk about is I've done, in fact, an entire podcast episode on this, but it's so prevalent in social media that I want to talk about it here because it just doesn't go away. So the episode is Why You Shouldn't Call Your Ex a Narcissist with Layla Ali, and I will put a link to that in the show notes. But the last trap that people fall into through social media is my ex is a narcissist, right? So there's an entire ecosphere in social media around narcissism and divorcing a narcissist. And it's filled with things like, here are the top 3 traits of a narcissist, or if your ex does X, Y, and or Z, they're a narcissist. How to survive divorce from a narcissist. How to beat a narcissist in court, right? Countless TikToks, Instagrams with these captions that say, my narcissist ex tried to destroy me, with lots of music and, red flags listed out in the caption. Look, I've said this before. Everyone thinks their ex is a narcissist. It is the rare client who walks in and goes, no, they're a good person. I just don't want to be married to them anymore. Everyone thinks their ex is a narcissist. And honestly, maybe yours is. But the truth is statistically probably not. Actual narcissistic personality disorder affects a very small percentage of the population. But more importantly, the label does not matter in court. I see this over and over again. You coming into any conversation with a decision maker in your divorce, be it the judge, be it the child advocate, being anyone who's got a role to play in your divorce about determining the best interest of your children, does not make decisions based upon your statement that my ex is a narcissist by you labeling them as a narcissist. There's no law out there that says narcissists don't get custody, narcissists don't have parenting time, narcissists this, that, or the other thing. That is not how our laws read. It's the behaviors that your ex exhibits that matter. And how those behaviors, when it comes to parenting anyway, how those behaviors affect your children. So understand, the courts don't diagnose. They look at documented patterns of behavior. So what does that mean? You, the one who's alleging, let me use my legalese here, right? You're alleging that someone has bad patterns of behavior that make them a poor parent, right? Things like failure to communicate, co-parenting sabotage, refusal to comply with court orders, things like that they do. And by the way, people with certain personality disorders or who are just being problematic, because frankly, there's nothing about divorce that brings out the best in people often. Often it brings out poor behavior in people. Very often those poor behaviors are repetitive. One of your jobs is not to go in, scream, they're a narcissist, and then think that everything's going to fall your way. You're going to be grossly disappointed. What you do need to do is document the behaviors, because that's what the judge will look at. So calling someone a narcissist without credible evidence, without that documented pattern of behavior, poor behavior, that actually can undermine your case. That makes it look like you are name calling and jumping on the he or she is a narcissist bandwagon. You will not be the only person on that bandwagon. Every judge, every lawyer, every court person, every therapist involved, every child advocate has heard that term ad infinitum. What they want to hear is, what are the behaviors that make you think that? And don't say narcissist, talk about the behaviors. So what do you do instead? Focus on what you can prove, the missed drop-offs, the inflammatory texts, the non-compliance with court orders. Document those behaviors, write them down, and do not get lost in this diagnosis. Do not use the word narcissist. Don't go down the rabbit hole of narcissistic content on social media. Frankly, that's inflammatory and it tends to ramp you up in a way that's not helpful. If you are going to look at those posts, glean from them what these behaviors are that you should be looking for, and work with professionals who can help you manage high conflict dynamics without labeling your ex. And I've had a lot of fabulous experts on the podcast. People like Tracy Malone, Dr. Nadine. I mean, there's so many, Bill Eddy, right? People who listen to their podcast episodes, but if you need to reach out, I always say, if you're going through a divorce where you have these types of behaviors going on, the most important thing to get is a coach who understands those behaviors, helps you pull them all together into a written document so that you can show those patterns and who can show you how to manage those behaviors. Don't go down the social media rabbit hole of I'm divorcing an ex. Not helpful to you. So that's where I want you, social media should be a place where you can share some aspects of your life. You can stay up to date on what others are doing. You can get on trends. You can enjoy pictures of tiny cows and kittens and puppies and all of those things. But when you are going through divorce, be very cautious with your social media intake and output, because it is a circle that you may go down, because it's a rabbit hole you can go down that can cause you heartache and grief in your divorce and can lead you astray. Get your advice where you should be getting it, from the people who know the answers. All right, before we go, I'm going to give you 3 golden nuggets to take with you from today's episode. 1, don't be fooled by an initially friendly split. And I'm not saying it won't stay friendly, but very often friendly, as you dive into the minute details of your divorce, things can get a little tense. So amicable doesn't mean informal, even if you have the most amicable divorce all the way through. Make sure your agreement is reviewed by a legal professional before you file it, before you adopt it, before it comes in order of the court. A peaceful divorce deserves airtight protection, and that is going to protect you. You have to protect yourself. Next golden nugget: focus on behaviors, not labels. Calling your ex a narcissist might feel validating in the moment, and you certainly can think it, and you can know it in your heart and your soul if you believe it. And if it helps you heal, I'm all for it. You need to know what trauma you are dealing with. But putting it out in court is not helpful to you. Labels are not helpful in a courtroom. You need patterns and proof. Judges want documentation, not your diagnosis. And third, think twice, think 3 times, think even more than that before you post anything. Social media is not your therapy during divorce. It's definitely not private. And if you wouldn't want a judge to see it, don't post it. If you don't want it brought up in a big blown up picture like my client had with his yacht and his girlfriend and his champagne, then don't post it. It's as simple as that. Divorce is already hard enough. The last thing you need is bad advice making it harder. Social media has its place, and it can be a place for you to go get lost or see things and do things that can take you away from the moment and the difficulties of what you're going through. It's full of trends, but know that your divorce is not a trend. It is a life transition for you, and your future deserves more than a 60 or 90-second video clip. Listeners, thank you for listening today. If this episode helped you spot some red flags of social media, share it with a friend or leave a review for the podcast. As always, remember, no matter how overwhelmed you feel right now, you are not alone. You've got this, and I'm here to help you move forward with confidence. So I'll see you next time on Divorce and Beyond. Thank you for joining me today on the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I hope you found some information and inspiration to help you on this journey. Please join me every Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a new episode. And if you like the show, please take the time to subscribe and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. You can also find more information on the website at divorceandbeyondpod.com, where you'll find links to the YouTube channel, transcripts of the episodes, and other bonus content. So I'll see you next week to help you move through your divorce and beyond.